invited to Oman to come cycling, and they told us that Jebel Akhdar would be one of the hardest climbs you'd ever do. I didn't realise that they were not exaggerating.
Not at all. This is hands down the hardest climb I've ever done or hope to do.
What, you reckon it's even harder than the Paso Gel?
I don't think you can compare them, because not only is this steeper, it's also longer.
Yeah, but we shouldn't complain about the steepness because it means we get up quicker.
Yeah, but we are going slower.
Well, we're going slower horizontally, but we're going faster vertically. I mean, basically, if it's steeper, it's a more efficient way of climbing to get a higher VAM, a higher vertical ascent rate in meters per hour.
Right, so if that's what a VAM is, how many do you think you could do in 1 hour?
I don't know, I've never thought about that really. That sounds like a really painful challenge.
Kind of like the hour record on the track, but for climbers in a way.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a thing. Do you think there's a world record?
I don't know, you should have a look.
Might just stop and have a look.
Come on, let's pull over.
Hang on. Well, actually, it is listed as a world record on the Guinness site, but no one's got it.
So if no one's got it, then presumably anyone could go and get it.
Yeah.
You could go and get it.
Actually, Jebel Akhdar is the perfect climb because not only is it steep, but it's long, and there aren't actually that many climbs in the world that are this steep for this long. You know what? I think I'm going to give it a try.
Really?
Yeah.
No. Emma, come back. We're over halfway up. Emma! She is mad.
Actually, this attempt at a strange kind of record was not entirely spontaneous, because when we planned our cycling trip to Oman and I saw the profile of Jebel Akhdar, I knew this was something special. The first ramp of Jebel Akhdar rises 1,400 metres over 14 kilometres. There really aren't many road climbs that average 10% for that long, and steep gradient equals better ascent rate. Now, I mentioned this idea to ROTOR, and after using their equipment for many years racing, they agreed to support me in this little challenge too.
The main reason I'm not riding back up the hill is the mountain. I'm 30 kilos heavier, which you can see it's taken her a lot longer to get to the bottom. Great job, Emma. So Emma, after that long descent, how are you feeling? Have you warmed up?
Warmed up? Are you crazy? I said when I retired, I'm never doing a warm-up again. I hate warm-ups. They're the most stressful thing about racing. In fact, I've got quite anxious just thinking about warm-up.
How about your pacing strategy? Have you thought about that?
Well, I've thought about it. Problem is I don't really know my FTP anymore, if I ever did. And so I think I'm going to go for a quite conservative, 230 watts and kind of reassess every 10 minutes and go up or down by 5 watts.
We've got a whole hour. You'll probably set an FTP record doing it.
Yeah, it's a good way to find out, I suppose. To try to get the maximum amount of vertical gain in 1 hour, I made some little alterations to my Orbea Orca Aero to bling it up, if you like. So I kitted it out with Zip 202 tubular lightweight wheels, complete with Continental Pro limited edition tubular tyres. For a steep climb like the first part of Jebel Akhdar, gear choice is obviously very important. So I've gone for 3450 at the front, and at the back got an 1130 cassette, which is actually the largest cassette you can run with a short cage Dura Ace derailleur. Another feature that I specially requested for this challenge is to use ROTOR Q-rings. Now, after years and years of racing with Q-rings, I am fully adapted to using oval chain rings, and I find they help me to smooth out the dead spot in my pedal stroke. So I feel I can pedal more powerfully with a higher cadence and more smoothly with Q-rings. Also, my legs ache less afterwards. As Chris mentioned, pacing is absolutely crucial for a challenge like this, so I'm lucky enough to be using a ROTOR twin power meter, which actually measures torque on both sides of the crankset. This also allowed me to complete an optimal chain ring position analysis before the challenge by using the ROTOR Torque 360 software. So I went out on a longish ride and used the software to analyse where the dead spots and the peak spots in my pedal stroke were. My chainring setting is number 3, which is kind of average.
So, as Emma is about to start enjoying this most epic of climbs, we should explain VAM, Velocità Ascensionale Media, or average rate of ascent, measured in vertical meters gained. For context, what is a good VAM? Well, this year Thibaut Pinot took the record on the famous Monte Zoncolan at a rate of 1700. However, this climb doesn't actually last an hour, it was 40 minutes, so you would expect a higher VAM. On the same day, the grupetto climbed over 14 minutes slower, resulting in a VAM of 1250. Annemiek van Vleuten recorded rates of between 1375 and 1480 up La Colombiere on her way to victory in this year's La Corse by Tour de France. But there was a descent in the middle of this climb, and the uphill efforts again didn't quite total an hour. And what could you or I expect to climb at? In September, weighing 78 kilos, I climbed the Passaggio in 55 minutes with a VAM of 970. I rode to an average power of 290 watts, which should give you a rough guide.
Right, Emma, this is it. This is the start of what is probably the hardest 60 minutes of your career, and certainly the most important. How are you feeling?
Yeah, a bit scared actually.
Right, well, the blue line, or the blue sign rather, is the start line. So when you get there, I'm pressing go.
Rolling start.
Good luck, Emma.
Thanks.
Enjoy.
I'm not sure I'm supposed to enjoy it.
I'm going to enjoy it.
With the first steep ramp towering above me, my power was well over target, and I could feel the burn, but I thought, no, I will push on through. 230 watts was clearly far too conservative. However, time slows down around threshold. I call it the special theory of threshold relativity, where 13 minutes feels like 53.
Emma is now 13 minutes into the effort, and as you can see, it goes up in ramps. Good luck, Emma.
After my initial enthusiastic start, the watts that had felt so easy for the first 10 minutes now somehow don't. Working at this rate, my body had heated up really quite suddenly, and I didn't seem to be moving fast enough to generate a breeze to evaporate my sweat and cool me down.
It's funny because obviously I'm longing for flat sections where it's a bit easier, but also on the flat I can't get as high a VAM, so I need to look forward to the steep sections. Was not expecting to get wet on this ride. I'm out of gears at an RPM of about 70. Maybe I should have gone even smaller on the cassette. Oh, and it's hot. Forget that when you're riding slowly uphill, there isn't any breeze from travelling, so it really gets quite warm. My sweat is dripping, not evaporating.
So Emma has absolutely annihilated the first 5.6 kilometres of the climb. She's done it in around 21 minutes, and this here is the finish line in the Tour of Oman. She's done that pretty much as fast as most of the men did, but she's got to go all the way to the top. She's got another 8 kilometres to go.
At present, stage 1 of the Haute Route Oman in March 2019 is the only chance for most people to ride this beautiful beast of a climb. Because usually you have to get special permission to ride through the checkpoint at the base.
Emma is now 34 minutes into the climb, and she's, well, obviously over halfway, but has shown absolutely no sign of easing up. There are a few of these little ramps ease off a little bit, which enables her to then hit the next one even harder. She's looking good. To get to this point, Emma has now ridden 11 kilometres and climbed over 1,100 metres, and she is currently on 49 minutes, which puts her effort estimate of around 1,400 metres well within reach. Good work, Emma, you're doing a really good job.
I'm going to be sick.
I haven't dug this deep for a long time. The thing about bunch races is that there's usually someone to chase or someone to drop. But solo, time trial, there's just your own motivation and willingness to suffer, facing off in a duel with your own lactate burn.
So with only 5 minutes remaining, Emma is now over 1,800 metres and doing an amazing job too. Emma now has only 50 seconds remaining of her effort, and we're going to have to find a little finish line, an imaginary finish line that we can guess to work out where it is. I'll jump out, I'll jump, stop.
I haven't actually been sick on my bike, although I feel like it. That was a muddy puddle, I promise. Like, it's amazing, like, I'm pacing. You know how you asked about pacing?
Yeah.
Did I pace it? No. Did I go off at 250?
What did you finish up with?
An average of 231.
That's what you said you were going to do, yeah. So it's not far off.
But I started like this and finished like that.
Well, the good news is you've gone so fast that even with this little rest, if you got back on your bike now, you'd take the KOM all the way to the top. What do you reckon?
And my final ascent in 1 hour? 1,275 metres, which seemed disappointing to me, knowing the VAM I can hold on shorter climbs. But just like your top speed isn't the distance you could ride on the track for the hour, your best ascent rate is not what you can do in an hour uphill.
Oh man, that was rubbish. I didn't even do 1,400 metres.
That was not rubbish, it was absolutely brilliant. But it's also a world record.
Well, only because no one's done it before. That doesn't really count, and I bet someone's going to like message in that they've done more than that on Strava.
Well, that throws it out to them, doesn't it? If you think you can beat Emma's monumental effort, why not have a go and let us know how you got on in the comments?
Yeah, it's great fun, I promise you. In fact, you could even come and ride this very climb in the Haute Oman next year in March.
Yeah, well, you've had a recce now. Maybe next time you make it all the way to the top.
Yeah, I hope so. I feel like I could go faster. I want to come back and do it again.
Well, if you thought Emma did a great job today, why not give her a big thumbs up?
And click down here if you want to see our epic ride in Oman.